Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, I've had a few people ask me to do things like, simple setup guides for some of the distros that are, more recommended for beginners, like Linux Mint and Ubuntu Mate and other things like that. And so I'm going to slowly be working on some of those. All right, so as I said, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a beginner's guide to Ubuntu Mate. So before we jump too much into what is Ubuntu Mate and why, we're just going to start doing some installation process. I haven't even installed this on the VirtualBox yet. Pretty much I just wanted to make sure that we could walk through it because it's going to take a few minutes to install. I'll use that time to talk about some other things. So of course, before you install a Linux distro, a few things I recommend. If you can, have USB drives laying around so you can burn them onto a USB drive and then use those to boot your computers. Now, what I also always do is, especially as I'm testing devices, you don't want to mess up your Windows system. I never recommend, or Mac, I guess you're using that. I never recommend a dual boot where two operating systems are sharing a hard drive, because updates can mess with each other's bootloaders, all sorts of other weird things can go on. Microsoft is doing all sorts of weird stuff on their operating system, so I don't trust it anyway. So with all of that being said, what I like to do, at least on my initial tests, is I run everything on USB drives. So these are USB 3. Make sure you only doing this on USB 3 drives. USB 2 are painful. Use USB 3 drives, and you can get these pretty cheap now. So I have a pile of these in. Actually, that's this operating system over here. That's what I run this off of. It's running on a USB 32 gigabyte drive. I also have a 64 gigabyte external, which I use with to run cubes. And so that's the way I always recommend that you do your installations, is onto USB drives while you're doing full testing. So these are literally good enough to test like that. And then if you get to that point where you're like, hey, I really want to do this operating system, then you can decide if you want to wipe your Windows. If you happen to have a tower, most cases, especially if you just picked up a tower somewhere from the store, most of those towers can hold multiple hard drives. Pop the guy open and throw in another disk. That's actually the native operating systems on this computer. I have one hard drive still runs Windows 8, and the other hard drive runs Linux Mint KDE. And so I have multiple different operating systems on this computer without USB drives, but none of the hard disks mess with each other. And that's kind of important as you're doing some tests. So don't try and load it alongside your Windows, especially since the Ubuntu installer will always have the option to install alongside. That can get you into some trouble, especially if you're new to Linux. If you're a old seasoned guy, you know what you're doing, hey, no problem, go for it. But that's kind of what we're going to do. So what I've done here is I've downloaded the ISO, and then I'm just going to go ahead and boot this into a virtual machine. And in the virtual machine, we are going to go ahead and install this. So that's actually the first thing I'm going to do, is install this guy into the virtual machine. And why Ubuntu Mate? Why do I like it? Well, I like it because it is, the Ubuntu system is a fairly stable, fairly mature platform. This has a more classic shell type environment, so something, a lot of people still appeal to this. I realize some people like the new modern stuff. If you want something modern, GNOME, Bungie, whatever. I mean, these are good systems, but I actually like some of the older ways. I'm just far more productive in that type of system. So, while I don't do a whole lot of solid production on my Mate computers, what I do run on my Mate computers is all of my digital backups. I'm talking about minimalizing my life digitally. That's all done on this operating system. It's just a hard drive. Of course, my computer here has an IC dock. That means that I have on the front of my computer, I can just push a button and pull the hard drives out, and I can swap them around. Hello, people. Use Ubuntu Mate. It rocks. And Kitty endorses Ubuntu Mate as well. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and install it. And the first screen you're going to find on this is, do you want to download updates while installing it? I would recommend doing this. Of course, this requires an internet connection. This will make sure that, the thing loads up mostly up to date. Also, if you are planning on doing anything like watching Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those types of things, maybe to some extent YouTube videos, things like that, or music things, you want to install the third-party codecs. If you're building this thing as like this hardened security system, don't install third-party information, like third-party codecs is what you're installing there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and click the continue there, and then that'll give us another screen here in a moment. All right, so here you can see here it's giving me the option to install alongside. This is the dangerous option. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it doesn't. I'm just going to go ahead and erase my disk. This is, of course, a virtual machine. If you need to encrypt this, you can go ahead and click encrypt it here. Now, there's two ways of encrypting on Linux. One of those is encrypting the entire disk. One of those is encrypting just the home folder. If you want like security consciousness type stuff, you want to encrypt the whole disk. I'm not going to bother with any of that. And so I'm just going to hit the simple option, erase the disk, install Ubuntu Mate. And then we're just going to click the next button. And then here it's going to tell us that, you know, things are going to be formatted, data is going to be lost, etc., etc. So we're going to go ahead and do that and let that go. Now it should automatically detect your time zones. If it doesn't, just select your proper time zone. Push your next. It should automatically detect your keyboard layout, so just double check that. If you do need to do some testing, you can go ahead and use your button down here to test your keyboard. And then give it a name. So I'll go ahead and call this name, and we'll call this Ubuntu, which is not a very good password, but that's okay. Now, if you want to log in automatically, this means that you don't have to enter the password when you boot up the computer. You want to click over here. If you want to require the password to log in there, and again, as we talked about with encrypting your disk versus encrypting your home folder, if you do want to encrypt your home folder, check on the button right here. That will make sure that like it provides a layer of security. It's just not as secure as encrypting the entire disk. So you can do that as well. I'm just going to go ahead and click the login automatically. In this case, you just decide which is best for your particular scenario. Now it's going to do some copying files, and while that's doing copying files, we're going to go ahead and have a look at their website over here. Oop, hold on a second. There we are. All right, so at their website, you can get a lot of just information. You can get Ubuntu Mate for computers, Raspberry Pis. The download screen is going to show you various options, a 64-bit, 32-bit, Raspberry Pi, PowerPC. So these are like your Apple computers and things like that. And so you can get your community over here. This is good for if you're having some questions. Now, of course, the good thing about using Ubuntu Mate is pretty much anything on Ubuntu forums is going to work out for you. So that's good. Of course, I'll point out the donate page. This is an independent project, a community-led project. So supporting them, either Patreon or single donations is always recommended for them, or like suggested for them if you're using it a lot. That'd be a good thing. Of course, if you got Bitcoin, you can do that. And of course, there's a wiki page over here where you can get some help, tutorials, installation. So if there's something here in this video I'm not covering, go ahead and check this out over here and see if you can't find anything. And the shop over here. So here is, you can buy various computers, pre-running it, a variety of different things. Of course, these look like mostly European shops, so I'm not sure about the US options. I've never actually come over here to do that. All right, so now we have our Ubuntu installed. Your guest editions is not something you'd need to install unless you're doing it in a VirtualBox. So here is your Ubuntu. And some people really like this setup. It's not my personal favorite. We have a show desktop icon down here in the very bottom left panel there. In the very bottom right, we have a trash can. I love the fact that on most of my computers, I can throw the mouse to the bottom corner, click the mouse button, and show the desktop. So that's one of the first things I always do is I move this thing. What you can do if you kind of right-click and hit Properties to the panel, Now you should be able to drag things around. I gotta remember exactly where I'm at on my panels. This is not something I did not jump in here and there we go. Unlock the panel. That's what I gotta do. And then right click and move. And then now I can just drag this guy where I want it to be. Now some of them will be locked, so that's what's going on with this one here. This guy is locked to the panel, and the trash can is also locked to the panel. So I'm going to right-click this guy, move it again, and I'm going to throw that down there like that. And now I'm going to lock that back to the panel. And I'm going to just go ahead and lock everything else back down to the panel the way I like it. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't like on Ubuntu Mate is that the menu system is a little bit different than most people like. And so this is why. First, we have our basic information here, which is actually a very decent, respectable menu, but you'll notice that there is no search functionality on it. We also, though, have our places. Again, a good menu, but a lot of people just aren't used to this. And then anything for system administration is over here, which is good, and I like it. It's a little bit too different from people. And so if you want to have a more traditional menu, I'm going to come down here and hit the add. I'm going to basically right-click on the panel down here. I'm going to hit Add to Panel. And then now we have the ability to add a variety of different tools to the panel. And what we're going to do is there are a few different menus. I'm going to add the Mate menu, hit the Add button. And then what that's going to do is I'm going to now move it, and I'm just going to move it way over here. Let me move that out of my way. And I'm going to lock that to the panel, again with the right click. So now I have a very nice menu, which is a searchable menu, which has a lot more functionality that most people will probably want better than the menu systems up here. Now, to be sure, I actually keep these up here on my system. They don't get in my way in the slightest. I actually like them up there because if I am doing something system related, I can quickly find it over here. It's just not what a normal user is used to. And so I always recommend installing this menu first. So that is the first thing I like to do. But that being said, what I'm going to do next is we're going to go ahead and have a look at some devices. And again, just pardon me for a second as I look into just a couple of things. I'm just looking for what I have where. All right, so the disks is the tool I was just talking about. This is the program that you can use to format your drives. Of course, I don't have USB pass-through turned on. I don't have a drive handy that I can plug into it right this second. But if you come down here, you can come down, format a partition, and you can select from that partition an encrypted compatible Linux system. This is how you would encrypt a drive. So the basic system inside of this is the Software Boutique. This is your basic platform, which I actually do not care for this this application installer at all. There is a search function now. That was my biggest problem before. So it does work a lot better than it used to. But if I want to install the Chromium browser, I can just do a search for that. Go ahead and hit the install. Let's go ahead and apply the changes. So to come over there, hit the apply the changes. It should ask us for our password. And then let's go ahead and see. Well, it looks like I have to wait for that to finish before I get into there. All right, let's see. PC has USB Wi-Fi thing. I figured the problem would be my Wi-Fi died. All right, Chromium is now installed. That's good. Let's go ahead and see if Chrome is in the repository. I do not believe it actually is. Yes, I'm finished. That's why I don't really care for the Software Boutique. Is it's like I can really only do one thing at a time, and it's actually a little annoying. Okay, so Chrome, okay, Google Chrome is actually in here. I don't recommend installing Google Chrome, but hey, for those people that really got to keep something similar while you try out Linux, I'd rather you use Google Chrome than not try Linux at all. So there we're installing some software, so that's kind of how that works. Of course, the next thing you can do, and one of the challenges that I have here, I'm going to do a test with this newer version and see if they've solved the other issue. The reason I like the Ubuntu Software Center better is because it will, if you search on a basic functionality you're looking for, it gives you a lot of packages. But the Software Boutique is one that I've never actually found anything really I was looking for. So if I'm looking for, let's do health tracker. I have a time tracker is the only thing that shows up, because whatever you're searching for here only looks for the information up there. But let's go ahead and install the Software Center. And that's actually, I've installed that on my other system. Let's see if I can get it installed over here. I'm just going to search for, where is the software? Maybe they took it out. Yeah, I installed the Ubuntu Software Center on my system. And that's actually the one I prefer to use. You know what? I bet they probably did get rid of it, because this is now the official software package inside of Ubuntu, rather than the old Ubuntu Software Center, which is what I have installed on my my Mate system. So I'm guessing that that's why. So we're going to go ahead and install this. And you'll find that up there as well, probably in the same location. It used to be in the same location. Oh well, guess it's not now. Let's go ahead and do this. That gives you something else. Either they've cleaned their software repositories out, or this one doesn't work nearly as well as the old one did either. That was kind of the challenge that I had with this, is that it really doesn't allow you to search. So if you're looking for Office applications, you may not find all of the Office applications available, because with this platform, I find that you have to actually know what you're looking for. And I don't even know if OpenOffice is in the repository or not. It just like I never really got good results out of this. It looks like it's better now since the update. So it looks like Software Boutique is working better than it used to. So that's actually good. We got some software installed. We've even installed an extra software store. Let's talk about how you might adjust the theme around a little bit. I generally like right-clicking on the desktop, and then you can find your background images over here. And of course, the good thing about Mate is you don't actually have to hit apply on anything. You just click it and it'll automatically go, so you can have a quick look at it. I like that. Let's use that one there. So of course, right inside of here, you also have the ability to change your themes around. So you can adjust your themes very quickly, just as fast, in fact. I'm using this green submarine on my personal one, which is pretty cool. I kind of like this guy here. Let's run with this one for a little bit. And of course, you can change your fonts around and some of your interface over here. All right, so I just loaded up Mate Tweak. It is already installed. I did not have to install this. So this will allow you to make some adjustments. So if you want to add your computer, your trash to your system, your networks, folders, mounted archives, you can do that. Here is your interface. So you can do text, icons only. This is inside your toolbars. Let's see, here's your panel. So that's your type of panel that you want to use. That. Let's go back to what we had. Of course, they got rid of that one. Let's see. Looks like they did get rid of the customizations I put in. This is actually nice, though. Ooh, I like that one. That's kind of nice. They did get rid of the menu that I want, so I'll have to go back through and redo that menu. But actually, I like that one. Let's see if I can get my old one back. So take note of that. Adjusting your panels will undo any customizations you've had. I like, of all of the native ones, though, I like this one the most. Or no, not that one. We had an internal error. Yeah, sure, let's go ahead and report that back to them. Which one was that I liked? Oh, that was it. The Redmond. I liked this one. Of course, I'd still want to replace this with the more advanced menu because I want the ability to do searches. But you can do that. And under your Windows here's your Windows Manager. So if you want to do Compiz, you can do that. This may not work well because I'm on a VirtualBox, but let's give it a try here. The Control Center. This is the one I was looking for, yes. So this is where you can come in and you can do everything. Your software updater is over here. So this will check for software updates. Your welcome screen. This one here was the menu I was looking for. Yes, it exists. I knew I wasn't going crazy. I mean, I'm going crazy, but for other reasons. So here's firewall configurations, network configurations, Mate Tweak, Windows. Here's your notifications. Here's what a notification looks like, so I can adjust my notifications the way I like. Actually, I like the slider the best. So I like that notification. That's a nice notification there. All right. Startup applications. If you need to adjust anything in your startup, you can go ahead and do this. There's a lot of things in startup by default, so you might want to look through that system, see if there's anything in there. Here's your main menu editor if you want to adjust anything that's on any of your menus. So this will allow you to adjust your applications menu and your system menu up here, so you can do any adjustments to your menus.